The Cardinal Report is back. Breathe a sigh of relief. Your long wait is over. It's been 2 weeks since our last episode, but now a new season of sports to get to. It's spring, and the baseball team is in studio. But first, let's get you caught up on everything else in North Central athletics, because there's a lot. In softball, the Cardinals are 11-1. NCC rode a 10-game win streak into its home opener, which it dropped to the St. Mary's College Bells. That was the first game of a doubleheader, which the Bells took by a final of 6-4. Then in the second game, the Cardinals got back on track. Kirsten Tinkoff, 2 for 4 and an RBI and 2-run score. A big part of why the Cardinals won, 7-4. North Central's next scheduled game isn't until April 2nd at home against Concordia University. And Sunday's game against Monmouth was canceled due to rain, and the head-to-head with Aurora was postponed. The women's lacrosse team, with a destructive run through half 2 of March, wins by 18 over Carroll University, 15 over Cornell College, and 18 over Wartburg. Were all part of North Central's run of terror. Then on Sunday, another win, but this time only by 2. A 14-12 victory over Southwestern University. Southwestern, a team from Georgetown, Texas, came into the game at 6-5, having previously beaten Aurora University 15-11. But against North Central, the Pirates' leading scorer, Courtney Ragland, was held to just 2 goals in the game, which made all the difference, as Gina Fisher's 4 goals and 2 assists led the way for North Central. The Cardinals head to Elmhurst to take on the Blue Jays on Thursday. The United States Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association says the North Central men are ranked 4th in the nation to begin their outdoor season. The points are based entirely from performances recorded by returning athletes from 2014. North Central was given 101.93 of those points. Wisconsin lacrosse begins first with 201.48 points. And last year's champion, the University of Mount Union, is second with 148.82 points. The Cardinals, along with Augustana, are one of 2 CCIW teams to crack the top 25. North Central runner Troy Kelleher returning in the 10K, Adam Widener in the shot put, and Derek Nelson, Mustafa Oluoye, as well as Zach Kirby back for the 4x4. The women are ranked 10th. 82.21 points slated them there, while Wisconsin lacrosse first again with 198.25 points. Like it is on the men's side, the women's side features 2 CCIW teams, with Illinois Wesleyan joining in at number 11. Returning for the Cardinals, Brooke Patterson in the pole vault, Ebony Stallworth in the shot put, and Madison Renfro in the 100-meter hurdles. Liz Composto will take another shot at grabbing her first outdoor All-America plaque. NCC opens the 2015 outdoor season on April 2nd at the Wheaton College First Chance Invite. All right, let's change gears and get to the baseball team. Head coach Ed Mathey, as well as pitcher Ben Krusen, and infielder Sam Klein on the way on TCR.
Please have a seat. I'll be honest. Your resume is not what I'm used to.
I know.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need a hard worker.
Good. I've got 2 part-time jobs and to help my parents pay the bills.
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find, cultivate, and train a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back to TCR. What better way to kick off the spring season than a sit-down with North Central's semi-new head baseball coach, Ed Mathey. Ed, nice to see you.
Thanks, Charlie. Appreciate it.
And
good to be here.
Great to have you on. The head coach from 1994 to 2002, and the question on everyone's mind with you coming back, what brought you back?
Well, I can tell you, I don't think I've really ever left, Charlie. I know that I was away working somewhere else, but being a graduate of North Central, I haven't started my coaching career here. I have several friends in the athletic department and on campus, so I was back visiting a whole lot of times, but to answer your question, the reason I came back was great opportunity here, I think, to win conference titles and regional titles and play in a national championship, and to do that on a regular basis.
Well, since you've been back for a while, I won't ask how it feels to be home, but I will ask, does it feel nice to have control of the team again and be able to be the guy that forms the team's identity this season?
Yeah, you know, it's a comfortable position for me. I've been a head coach now for over 22 years, so I'm kind of accustomed to that. But to be back in the dugout at North Central College has a special place for me, and I really enjoy it.
Hey, you had to really miss it after all these years, and it's got to be great to be back. And how about we get into baseball talk? You are looking at a team now that's played a pretty good chunk of games through, what are we, 8 and 9 now at this point? How have things gone for you?
Well, we'd always like to have more wins. There's no doubt about that. You know, it's been an early season. The players on this year's team, with the timing of the hire being just in December, you know, these guys are getting used to me, and they're giving us great attention, great approach, great attitude. So it's been a lot of fun. But we'd like to have a few more wins. But having said that, we've been in just about all of our ball games, and we've played a very challenging schedule, including former national champion, #1 team in the country. We opened up our conference season against the #1 team in the league. We've probably played 3 or 4 other games against teams that are you know, perennial regional players. So we're doing all right. We're doing okay.
And I would say the same. You're doing pretty well for yourself at 8 and 9, because through every game, even in the losses, still pretty close in all the contests. Does having so many returning players to the roster from last season kind of help with that?
Oh, absolutely. They've been outstanding. It's great leadership within the ranks. You know, they go about their business. They know the league. They know the competition. You know, and for the most part, have come ready to play each and every day and come ready to practice each and every day. So that's something that, as a coach, you feed off of.
Team was 1 win away from the NCAA tournament last year. So how does that affect the goals for the team going into this year?
Well, for me, you know, I wasn't here last year, but I think that all those guys that are returning had a taste of it, and they knew how close they were. And the game that they lost was actually the 1 game in 5 against the team that they played that they did lose. So they felt they left something on the table, and I think they've worked hard in the offseason. Their motivation level is very high.
Your system you bring, called the Hard 90, it's something you preach about running very hard on the base paths. Almost sounds like something Joe Madden from the MLB came up with. Is it similar?
Yeah, very similar. It's just about approaching the game and respecting the game. You know, we want to go out and play hard and be ready to play each and every day. We want our opponents to know that when they're playing North Central College, that they've got to come in ready to play. And I think the guys are starting to understand it a little bit more. They're starting to see where the margins are in that type of approach, and I think that they're starting to enjoy it, and you're starting to hear it from them. So that's a sign that it's sinking in for me.
If you look at any sport, throughout every generation, through every decade, the sport itself changes. There's always these dynamics that just over the years, for whatever reason it is, things begin to change. In baseball, when you were there in 2002, and now you're back here in 2015, what do you think the changes are to the game that you have to adapt to?
Well, you know, obviously there's been some change in technology with the bats and the balls. That's probably the biggest impact on the college game right now. We're in a year currently where they've actually changed the baseball from last year. They've kind of got the bats regulated, and that's been in place for about 4 years. So I think the players have made adjustments to that. But the baseball this year is changed a little bit. And, you know, it's traveling a little bit farther when it's hit off the bat well. They've reduced the seams on it, which helps it travel farther on batted balls. So I think the guys are adjusting to that. But, you know, really, the game is still the game that it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You just have to adjust to the technology and the fact that there's probably some players that are a little bit stronger, a little bit faster playing it.
Well, speaking of learning, I mean, you're going to have to do a lot of learning being in a new era of baseball. You were on a road trip to Florida, and then you had one in Indiana, too. What do you think you took from those trips? What did you learn there?
Well, you know, I found out that our team likes to compete. I think that they like to get out there and win baseball games. You know, we left a couple games out there that we were in control of, and we just didn't finish it out. And I think our players understand that and realize that if we start finishing out those ball games, we've got a chance to get on a good win streak here. So, but anytime you're on the road with a group of players, you know, it's a team building type time. And for me, being new, I'm starting to find out their personalities a little bit more, which helps me to coach them a little bit better.
There was one guy around in 2002 that is still around now. It was Al Carius, the head cross-country coach. His son, Sam, is part of your team, and from watching a couple of your games, it seems he may be your best fielder.
Sam's one of the guys that's doing a great job out there for us, no doubt. And as far as Al goes, not only 2002 but 1972, he was still here. But it's funny with Sam, because when I was here previously, Sam was one of the guys that was running around. He's a bat boy for us a couple times. He was in our camps. So when the job transition took place, he came up and he said to me, he says, you told me you're going to coach me sometime, so this is a year. But Sam has been doing a good job. He's our leadoff hitter. He kind of sets the tone up there. He's got an aggressive approach, which we like to have at the top of the order. And I'll tell you, when Sam's on base, we get some things done. So we look forward to him continuing that role.
And we'll get into some more of your other players after this break. More with head coach Ed Mathey when we return on TCR.
Every proper bear knows that the right fit means everything. Especially when it comes to car seats.
Oh, really? I just did what any bear would do.
So know for sure that your child is in the right car seat for their age and size.
I like it.
To learn more, visit safercar.gov/the-right seat.
Oh, hello there. Oh,
Where's that bear?
Back on TCR, still with baseball coach Ed Mathey. Ed, I was at your game on Saturday, and I have to say that was one of the most heartbreaking games I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was a tough one. We've had a couple of those this year, and we felt going into that ninth inning that we were still in control of that whole game. And we felt we had a great chance to close it out. And unfortunately, Augustana's a good team. They're going to keep fighting to the last out, and they did their jobs. We just didn't do ours. But I was real proud of the way the guys came back after the short break and got after the next game and pulled out the victory. That showed a lot of character for me.
A big part of your job is finding a way to help them regroup. And the nice thing for your team is that after a loss like that, instead of having to wait a few days for the next game, you can get right back at it and look for redemption. Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's one of the great things about the sport of baseball. You need to have a short memory. You need to learn some things, but even during the course of a game, it doesn't always go your way, and you've got to put it behind you and keep looking forward. So the guys refocused real well and came back and did a nice job in that second game against Augustana. Yeah, what was the difference in Game 2 versus Game 1? Was it better bullpen play later on? Yeah, absolutely. It was the defensive side of the baseball. We executed the defensive side of the baseball much better in Game 2 than we did in Game 1. And if we had done that in the first game, we would have won both games that day. The Cardinals earned a split in Saturday's exciting doubleheader against Augustana. How about we take you now to the highlight?
Last-minute preparations being made for North Central Baseball's home opener at Zimmerman Stadium. And a homecoming for Ed Mathey, exchanging lineup cards again. Previously, the Cardinals head coach from 1994 to 2002. Back again for more. His opponent on this day, Seth Davis and the Vikings. Augustana comes in riding a 10-game win streak with the score tied 2-2 in the bottom of the sixth. Joe Paparone leads off with a double. And it's Vito Durango who hit 3 for 4, and this RBI, 3-2 Cards. Then Bobby Smith gets his RBI. He'd finished 2 for 3, helping his team to a 4-2 lead. Same inning, and Carius is back at it. His second RBI on a 3 for 5 day scores Bobby Smith and moves Zach Jaros to second. Jaros would later score on a Brandt single to right center, and Carius would score from third on a wild pitch. Then came a grueling ninth inning. On March 25th, the Cardinals blew a 7-3 lead over UW-Oshkosh and lost 11-8. This game's story much more heartbreaking though. 10-7 score, and Brandon Jasper's double scores Kyle Linehan and Jock Kamalik. Then an error fielding this grounder from Nathan Gray ties the game. Jeff Pryor scores, and it's 10-10. As if it wasn't enough to tie the game, the pinch hitter, Matt Loeffel, singles to right on the 3-1 pitch, and Jasper scores on Loeffel's only at bat. And no, it's not over. John Swiderski with the single to center. Another run scores. It's 12-10. With Swiderski batting 4 for 6 and 2 RBIs on a highly productive outing. Reliever Nick Rafka picks up the win for Augustana. Drew Sutton tagged with the loss for North Central. However, the Cardinals would find redemption in the second game of the doubleheader, winning 6-3 thanks to 2 more RBIs from Paparone. That broke Augustana's 11-game win streak and brought NCC to an even 8-8 record.
We mentioned how close a lot of the games have been, and they certainly have, but it seems a lot of the time a common theme this season has been blowing late leads. Does that come down to defense or the bullpen?
It's a combination. They work hand in hand, Charlie. And I think our pitchers need to get in there and continue to compete in the strike zone and allow the hitters to hit the ball to our defenders. And of course, our defenders need to make plays. The one thing that in my years of coaching, and the players on the team have heard me say this, is you cannot defend the walk. I have not figured out how to defend a walk yet. So we want our pitchers throwing strikes. And if they're doing that and they're making the players earn the bases, we've got a chance to help them out on the defensive side.
But where things have been very strong is starting pitching. How about Krusen and Pelosi? Pelosi's been kind of a surprise this season.
Yeah, Brian Powell's been doing a good job. They both got good arms. They're leaders on this staff, and they're doing a great job setting the tone and setting the pace. Both of them very easily could have won all of their starts this year, but unfortunately, you have a team on the other side, and those guys are usually matching up with the other team's top pitchers. So it puts a premium on scoring runs, but a higher premium on executing the defensive side of the baseball. So we're happy with where they're at, and if they continue to do that, we're confident they're going to get their share of wins this year.
For pitchers, we mentioned your starting pitching has been so effective. There's one game I want to go back to, and it was the game against Lawrence where your team scored 30 runs. I had to look back at that and double check to see if it was true. 30 runs. Had to be happy to receive 30 runs of run support that game. How did that happen?
Well, it was probably a culmination of a few things. Lawrence had a situation where a few of their players were out for some reasons within team-related issues. So they had a pitcher that needed to go out there and try to throw as many innings as he possibly could. It didn't start out very well for him, and they needed to leave him in there to assume some innings. On our end, it was very early in the season for us, so our hitters were fresh for games, coming out of the gym, coming out of cages, so they were excited out there. They were swinging the bats very well, and then in that 4th inning, when the game really spread and we started putting in our substitutes, it was also their first opportunity to get out there and play. And I'm really happy from our standpoint that those guys didn't just let the score of the game give away at bats. They went in there and they worked and grinded out the at bats, and it just kind of kept adding up. And I wasn't going to tell our kids not to go out and play well. So.
Is that the most runs a team of yours has scored in your career? Because you've had a pretty long career and you've seen a whole ton.
Yeah, that's the problem with the long career. You don't always remember them, but I can't remember. I can't remember scoring more than that in the game.
A big part of your team scoring so many runs, Nick Brandt, who is hitting a very solid .405 this year, but he is not entirely a regular on the team. But with the way he's hitting, might he receive a more regular role?
Yeah, well, one of the things that Nick brings to the table is a lot of versatility. He has some foot speed. He has the ability to handle the bat. And we felt that since we kind of infused him into the lineup in our number 2 spot, it's really helped spread our lineup out and make us a more potent offensive team. But, Nick's not a guy doing it alone. We've got several guys in there doing a great job. And, but his addition to the lineup, I think, has helped stretch our lineup out offensively and give us more options, more weapons.
So after Milliken on Tuesday, you face Illinois Wesleyan. Have you had a chance to take a look at the starting pitchers, John Munyon and Matt Hart, who I assume will be the starters in those 2 games?
Yeah, Illinois Wesleyan traditionally has been a very, very pitching-oriented team. We anticipate those guys both being very competitive out there and giving their teams a great chance to win. So, I haven't dug deep into that just yet. But I will have a sit down with our assistant coaches here and just find out exactly what their tendencies are and where we can exploit those tendencies a little bit more as the game gets closer.
All right, well, Coach, it's been great talking to you for the first time. You did a great job today, and it's been awesome having you on.
Thanks, Charlie. A lot of fun.
All right, coming up, infielder Sam Klein and pitcher Ben Krusen join the Cardinal Report.
Today is Saturday. 60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov.
Back with Sam Klein and Ben Krusen. Guys, nice to see you.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.
And the first thing I want to ask you both, you have a new coach this year, and I want to know, what has the transition been like to playing under Coach Mathey?
Well, you know, obviously it's different personality, different philosophy, more interactive with us. Got us doing a lot of things, such as, you know, like you mentioned, the hard 90. You know, we preach that every day in the games and practice, all that. You know, hustling. So yeah, just kind of adjusting to the new philosophies and getting everybody together to try to get some wins here.
Pitching is his expertise, and Ben, we know you're a pitcher, so it's got to be nice to have a guy who really specializes in what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, when we were going through the process of getting a new coach, there's always that question of whether we were going to get a guy that knew pitching or was just be a new coach and then bring in someone. And I think it was kind of a relief to see or hear when we got Coach Mathey that he was very familiar with pitching and he had a plan in place. And I think that's been so far pretty good for our team.
All right, well, aside from you guys, we also caught up with some of the other players this weekend and got their perspective on the new coaching regime on this week's What's the Word?
It wasn't really a shock to us, but we really didn't know what was going on. A lot of the time we were kind of sitting, waiting, wondering, you know, who we're going to get, who are the candidates. But when we knew that it was Mathey and we were talking to our coaches and talking to the other guys who, you know, knew him and talked with him, we knew he's a solid guy. He's a really good coach, and he really knows what he's doing with baseball when it comes to that dynamic. So we took it, and it was, like I said, it was kind of a different shift in things when it came to baseball, but it was a big positive, and he's a great guy.
Very good game manager, Coach Mathey. We're always in between innings. He's shown us things that we should be aware of, and great pitching change. He puts good matchups where people should be, you know.
It's one thing that's different this year with Coach Mathey. He really influences that hard 90 down the bases, and you know, when teams are going to give you a break, you got to take advantage of it. So I think we do a good job of that hustle aspect of the game.
You know, it was kind of weird having a new coach, you know, kind of getting those new dynamics, but he's a great coach. He knows what he's doing, and he really keeps us upbeat in the dugout and keeps us really in tune in the game, and we got to take that into it and bring that to the wins. And it's just a fun game, and love this team.
Sam, you were 2 for 5 with an RBI in Game 2 against Augustana. Were you sparked by the motivation to come back and find the redemption after losing that heartbreaking Game 1?
Yeah, you know, I approach every game the same, you know, just trying to be as consistent as possible. That's the name of the game in baseball. You can't always, you know, get too high when you win or, you know, get too low when you lose. You got to come back, approach every day the same, and be a consistent performer. And that's what keeps you in the lineup. That's what keeps you, you know, playing hard every day. So it's just ball drops. Sometimes you get hits, sometimes you don't, and you just got to make the adjustments and go from there.
And a big part of that game had to be just the fact that your team was able to take out the opposing starting pitcher Kyle McGinley so early in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, that's our goal going into every game is attack. You know, we know pitchers are going to be in the zone, and we have to attack them as much as possible, get their pitch count up, and get them out of the game as soon as possible and get into their bullpen. And we did that pretty well in the first game, especially in Game 2 also. You know, we had the upper hand against Augustana in those 2 games on Saturday. We just got to focus more on finishing teams, and we'll be all right.
Ben, amazingly, your record this season 0-1, but I feel like it's not really a telling stat for you. I think you might be proof, just another bit of proof that record doesn't entirely matter for a pitcher. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's kind of just how baseball works. You know, you can go out there, you can throw 7 shutout innings or something, and you know your offense just isn't there that day, or it just comes later after you miss the chance to get a win or even a loss, and sometimes they bail you out of a loss. So I mean, it could be a one-run ball game, and they score later, and you get let off the hook. You know, I think it just kind of. I think you're right. I mean, records don't necessarily always mean the case, but it's just kind of how baseball is.
Your toughest game this season had to be that one against Augustana. We go back to that tough Game 1. First 5 innings, things were pretty solid for you. Things tailed off, though, a little bit later on. Mm-hmm. What do you think went wrong for you there?
You know, I think it might have been a little bit fatigue. And, you know, once you get around the lineup a few times, they start to, you know, time up your pitches. You start seeing batters. They start working counts. Whenever batters are seeing more pitches here and there, they start timing it up better, obviously, and I think just some timely hits with their part and other situations.
Sam, I've already talked to your coach about this, about how the team's defense might be part of the reason that teams had a little bit of a tough time closing out games this year, especially against Augustana. It seemed there was a lot of dysfunctional defensive play.
Yeah, actually early on in the season, we've been playing defense very well. Infield, outfield, catching, even pitchers fielding their positions. We've been playing defense well for the most part of the season. Lately, we have been struggling a little bit, timely errors and booted balls and whatnot. But overall, we're a solid defensive team, and it was just a couple games where we slipped up. But I don't lack any confidence at all in our defense. I have all the confidence in the world in all of our guys. We have a lot of upperclassmen at every position. So guys know how to play defense, and they do it very well. And we'll continue to do that.
And a place you have to have a lot of confidence in is the starting pitching, which has been so tremendous, aside from a little slip up against Augustana. Ben, I think you've been very consistent throughout the season, and to be consistent, you have to have a pretty solid repertoire of pitches. What does yours consist of?
Well, I throw the 4-seam and 2-seam fastball, and then I have a straight change, a slider, and a split finger. But I think from a consistency standpoint, I think our whole staff has been doing a great job. I think that just kind of shows of how much work we've put in the offseason, how much we've trusted the plan that Coach Mathey has in place for us. And also working with our catcher. A huge part of being successful during the game is working with your catcher, working against the hitters and their tendencies and stuff, and I think that comes in a huge part in preparation too.
Sam, you're hitting .281 this season, .340 last season. Still in good shape at the plate, but how do you return to your previous form?
Well, I would say that this year, as opposed to last year, I feel better, more comfortable at the plate. Some balls I've barreled up, haven't gotten down. Teams have been switching up their alignments on me and some of the other hitters in the lineup. So balls that would normally drop in the gap are getting caught. And like I said before, it's just being consistent. You go into the plate, being confident, and swinging at pitches in our zone and not chasing pitches away or chasing a pitcher's pitch. Just being consistent and continuing to come and work every day, get better. And that's baseball. Balls will start falling, and your average will go up, and it'll work out.
Final question for Ben. You're facing a lot of tough lineups this season. If you can you pinpoint who are some of the tougher teams you'll be going up against for the rest of the year?
I think every year Illinois Wesleyan, and I think the biggest thing is you can't really take any team lightly. I've had my success against certain teams and also failures against others, and it's been different every year. So I think, really every start you got to take it the same preparation, same mentality into every game. And, I really don't think you can ever overlook anyone.
All right, guys. Well, good luck moving forward through the rest of the year, and thanks for being on today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, after playing Milliken on Tuesday, the baseball team hits the road for another home-and-home, this one with Illinois Wesleyan, starting Friday in Bloomington, Illinois. Stay tuned to NorthCentralCardinals.com or follow at NCTV17 for all the latest. Thanks for watching the spring opening episode of TCR.